Magic the Gathering is considered the most complicated game in the world. Learning it is not easy, so I made a new format to try and teach it. I've used basically this with my Korean students and they picked it up very quickly, so I think it can be useful for other people too. If you like what you see, please hit like and subscribe. Alright,
take it easy.
Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. I am going to go over my idea for a format for teaching Magic the Gathering. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my background here because it is actually relevant. I've been teaching English in South Korea for 15 years now. I teach ESL and use board games, and I've been using board games for over 10 years, and I've been using Magic for the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years. So yeah, quite a bit of time put into that. One of the most useful things I have found in teaching board games is separating what is needed from what is kind of extra, not really necessary to play the game. And when you're introducing the game, just talk about what's needed. And that's really what this format is all about, focusing on what they need to play and then just cutting everything else. So it makes it much easier to understand. This is an improved version of what I've done with Korean students, again, for the last 3 or so years. So I've made similar decks to this. I'm going to have the decks posted, my suggested decks, in the description. So if you want to check them out, you can do that. I did actually set out to make a format. I didn't realize it was a format until I started writing everything down for this video. And I was like, oh wait, I've got a set number of cards and life and all of these rules that apply to it. Oh, that's a format, isn't it? Anyway, yeah. You should be able to put these decks together just using bulk. So I have my suggested decks. You don't need to use those, alright? I'm going to go over more about how to build these decks at the end of the video, but yeah. This is something you should be able to just throw together using stuff you have laying around and maybe hasn't made the cut. Actually, remember, lower power is better if you want people to learn Magic. It's focusing on the mechanics, not all of the tricks and stuff. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about English language learning theory, or ESL language learning theory, because I use this in making this format. It's actually very important. So the next step, I'm going to talk about some of the kind of background of my designing the format here. As I said, language learning theory was an important part of my thought process in making this format. I think quickly reviewing some things would assist on what I was thinking is what I'm going for here. So we're going to start talking about the input hypothesis. This is something that a linguist called Stephen Krashen came up with. He actually had 5 hypotheses, but we're going to talk about one. It's comprehensible input. This is I+1 is what it's called. So it's input, what you hear or what you already know, +1. So there's one step up, basically. Make it not overly difficult, mostly what you can understand, but one thing, one step up, basically. Anyway, yeah. What is easy to understand versus what makes it hard to grasp Magic is what I'm really asking here. The parts, a lot of things in Magic are not, solely in Magic. It's a card game. You have cards, you draw them, you play them. There's a lot of things, you have turns, you have all these things that are really very common in any card game, right? They're not going to be confusing to anyone probably, but what is very confusing, what is just kind of part of every card game, and what's in between. So we kind of want to take the what's part of every card game and what's in between and then cut the rest. So we're going to be dividing these things into 3 groups, as I said. First of all, what's easy or what's common to every game, or many games, I shouldn't say every game, but what's necessary, what's needed to play Magic, right? Or what's very important in Magic. And finally, the difficult stuff, all right? And the difficult stuff, we're just going to throw that out. We're not going to have it at all. We're just taking it out of the game entirely, which sounds difficult, but it's actually pretty easy. Okay, so what's easy? What are some of the easy things? Drawing cards, having a hand, having turns. These are very, very normal things in a lot of games, not even just card games necessarily, but also things like having hit points, having an opening hand. These are all the very easy things that I think don't require a lot of extra explanation, so we're not going to leave them alone. What's necessary? Next, we got turn order, zones. These are things that are unique to Magic, but you kind of can't really cut them, unfortunately. And we also have things like mulligans. How do the mulligans work? The key terms and concepts, things like summoning sickness, tapping, land drop. These are very fundamental things to the game. The difficult things, though, things that we are going to skip, the stack, priority. You might think, you kind of need those. No, priority is kind of redundant if you have turns, and the stack you don't really need if people can only go one at a time, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to take out anything that allows players to play during other players' turns. So yeah, we're going to simplify things a lot, basically streamline it right there. Yeah. So we're cutting out any kind of interactions during other people's turns. That's very difficult. I mean, for players to understand, that's where the stack comes in and everything can get muddled even for very experienced players. So one thing to keep in mind that I've already mentioned is that lower power is better for learning, right? You don't want to be relying on these big cards coming out and like changing how the game works, or game changers. Not even necessarily game changers though, but just very overpowered cards. Really, if your deck is over $5, you've probably gone too far. I made 5 of these, one for each color, and they were all under $5. So I think it's very doable. Again, you should be able to do it with the bulk lying around your house. So yeah, the main thing is to get the game running and get it going. And that's why we have, in this format, is 5 rounds. That's it. There's 5 rounds. So you get the game going, you play the first few rounds, which is kind of the most difficult for setup. And then you just are going to go straight into like points and things like that, resolving who wins the game. It will be very quick. I will be doing a follow-up video on this, introducing it to players. So players will have an idea of what to do and how to do it. No, I'm talking about the format. Okay, once again, as I said, there's 5 rounds only. After the 5th round is complete, everyone's going to count up everything and then just figure out points. So life points, sorceries in your graveyard, and permanents on the battlefield, including any token permanents, count for points. So yeah, it'll be very easy for even newer players to like count up everything. In this format, there is only 10 life. 10 is very low, but eliminating people in 5 rounds in a low power deck, even with 10 life, is going to be not impossible, but very difficult. So you can lose by like getting knocked out of the game. Probably not likely though. These are 40 card decks using up to 4 copies of cards. So it is better to use a whole bunch of the same card. Repeating cards is good because it makes it easier to understand, right? You don't want to do like a singleton 100 card deck thing. But yeah, fewer distinct cards allow them to focus on cards, and also these should be simple cards with simple effects, like very direct triggers, like if it dies, it goes to the graveyard, make a token, things like that. Death triggers are great, entering effects are great, but very simple things is what you want to focus on. We're not going to do a whole bunch of if this, then this, then this, then kind of things. We are taking out any kind of interactions during other people's turns and things that kind of can throw the game off. So we're going to say no instants interacting during other people's turns, no planeswalkers. They have ultimates that are often very, very powerful. No battles because they're weird, and or enchantments. Okay, so enchantments I'm taking out because like the static effects can make things confusing. And yeah, we're going to keep artifacts though. Enchantments are really just kind of like sorcery artifacts, so I feel like you don't really need them, and if we don't need them, we're cutting them, right? Artifacts are limited to mana rocks and passive constant effects, so nothing that activated abilities, no, right? Nothing like that. Also, no things that really change how the game works. Another important thing is to avoid cards that have a lot of text in general. The simpler the text, the better. So cards that are just like a 2/2 with nothing, hey, that's great. I don't know how many of those I actually used in mine, but yeah, keeping it extremely simple. If it has a whole like paragraph of text on the card, don't use it. No kindred decks, that's another thing. Kindred decks tend to start really amassing power and get a hand very, very quickly. And that's exactly what we want to avoid, so we're not doing kindred decks. My sample blue deck does have like an artifact creature deck that can, it's synergistic. So it's very similar to a Kindred deck, but I feel like it doesn't get as out of hand as quickly. So limited things, we've got tokens, recursion, keywords, counters, and removal. There's a little bit of removal and even a board wipe or a semi-board wipe in the mix, but this has to be used very, very carefully and also with like some kind of like additional effect useful. So like the black deck has a removal, and you have to sacrifice a creature, and it also benefits from death triggers. So there's that synergy there that is what you're really looking to play off of. I'm not giving every deck a removal and stuff like that. When you are building these decks, keep in mind the rules I've already mentioned about like things like no instants, no planeswalkers, no enchantments, no battles. That's an easy one, I think. But anyway, what we're looking at is a 40 card deck. So what I would do pretty much with all of them is lands 18, creatures 17, sorceries 5. In this format, that's it. That's what we've got is land, creature, sorcery. That's it. Done, right? Also limiting the keywords in general, especially on creatures. Again, so 2 keywords I would take out immediately. Well, not keywords, but yeah, 1 keyword, lifelink. Too strong. Lifelink is too strong. It's got to go. Any kind of evasion. So fly, unblockable. Protection. Anything that gives evasion, out. Okay? Evasion seems like it should be a pretty easy thing, but what it does is it makes it more difficult to balance the game. So that's what we're taking that out as well. I would try to choose themes that represent the colors. Also keywords for the colors. I was very careful about choosing keywords that kind of match the flavor of the color. So for white, I've got Defender and Vigilance, and it's like a token counters matter deck. For blue, I did Indestructible. Again, no evasion, so it's a little bit more tricky for blue, and then Artifact Creature Synergy is what the blue deck is all about. Then for green, we've got Trample and Ramp. Pretty obvious green themes, I think. Red, we've got Haste and Burn. Very red, right? Next up is black with Death Touch and Death Triggers. So yeah, I think that is kind of getting really to the like meat and potatoes of each color, and that's what you really want to feature. Again, these are monocolored decks that are only lands, creatures, and sorceries, and that's it, right? Finally, how to win. Okay, any player with 0 life is out of the game, just like in normal. I don't think that's very likely, but if there's maybe multiple players and one person is maybe sticking their neck out too much, they might get eliminated by having the other players team up on him or her. So yeah. At the end of 5 rounds, again, players tally their life total, the permanents including tokens, and the sorceries in their graveyard. Okay, so they get 2 points per life point and 2 points per land on the battlefield. Again, those land drops are very, very important, and it's something that they should be getting, making sure that they're set up for in their opening hand. Also, 1 point per card in hand. So card draw is useful in this. 1 point per permanent on the battlefield, including tokens, as I said, and 1 point per sorcery in the graveyard. Okay, so those are all the things that matter. That will determine the winner. So you just add those up and multiply where you have to, and you're good to go. And then you can either pack it up or just start a new game. This should be very quick, and again, it makes it, the shorter game is designed to make it less stressful to play. So yeah, they can play around, one game and then say, oh, I like it, I don't like it, and then they can be in or out. They're not like sitting down and they have to do it for like 2 hours or something. Anyway, take it easy.